Welcome to this week's episode of Flux Cup Weekly. I'm your host, username_Intel, and this video will be focusing on stats, teams, and opinions of the Apprentice Division Week 1. Last week, the Apprentice Division was able to have an invitational hosted by Soar Academy, which means the teams were able to go head-to-head in a non-official tournament to get experience and for analysts to get an idea of how these teams will look when it comes to the official match. Statistically speaking, Quokka Queens, Exodus, and Soar Academy were voted the best looking teams overall, while Gangsters with Waifus and Camelot were voted to be the worst. Overall, if we were to look at the scoreline of the Invitational, then we can understand as to why people voted the way they did. Quokka Queens were able to win in first place due to being extremely coordinated. While they still had the off-tank, main support, and flex support when by the community standards, the major difference and what made the team win or lose was being able to adapt, work together, or just pop off potential. And yet, by community voting, it shows that Exodus has the best overall team from the Invitational. Out of 10, they scored a 6 in main tank, 9 in off tank, 10 in flex DPS, 7 in hit scan, 3 in flex support, and lastly an 8 for a main support. Even if Soar beat them in main tank, MI6 tied for flex DPS and Quokka Queens beating them in the other categories, Exodus showed individually their team would be able to beat anyone and lose to a team of equal skill, which there really are 2 of them. This is where we come to the worst teams by the community, Gangstas and Camelot. I bet you're wondering, where is MI6? Well, by community standards, they did the best in between, so there isn't much to talk about them. Just considering that they are a little worse than Soar, but still extremely better than these teams that we're currently talking about. What made Camelot and Gangstas be rated so low was due to how messy they played. Both of these teams either got 1 rating or none, the highest being 3 for Camelot in the hit scan category. So when coming into week 1, they had a lot of time to attempt to improve and now would need to show it off. Luckily, they would be going up against themselves head to head, Gangsters with Waifus versus Camelot. Who would win? By the community predictions, it would be Camelot winning in a 3-1 series, but statistically speaking, only 12.5% were correct, since Camelot defeated Gangsters but in a 3-0 series. People who voted for 3-1 series had 41.7% chance to be correct, and I'm sure this is because they saw the 2 lowest rated teams as in equal skill. Unfortunately, they were wrong. Gangsters were coming in losing parts of their staff from a mass ban on Smurfs, so this may have affected them, but Camelot, even then, I don't believe could have stood a chance against Camelot's dominance in the match. The second match that occurred was Exodus versus Soar Academy, both teams of debatably equal skill going head to head for the ability to say that they deserve a higher place in the community rankings. The community believed Exodus would win in a 3-1 series, with the percentage being 37.5%. I'll be the first to say that this was a massive slugfest. Both of these teams played extremely well and dominated each other on a couple of the maps, never showing who had the edge. In the end, it would be Exodus' clean work that helped them win against the 3-2 series, which only 16.7% of people managed to predict. With a bit more time, it could be said that Soar would have won, but give credit where credit is due. Exodus played out of their mind, and while they may never fight Soar in the regular season, I feel when they go up against Quokka, the scoreline might be different than the Soar Invitational. Our final match of the day is the most surprising score-wise, Quokka Queens versus MI6. A match predicted to end in a 3-0 or a 3-1 scoreline at 33.3%. For my opening lines, I'm sure you've already guessed how wrong me and the community were. While, yes, Quokka Queens didn't have their standard lineup, MI6 played well and brought the series to a Game 5, which ultimately ended with Quokka Queens winning the close series in a 3-2. Only one person was able to guess this scoreline, and even I downplayed how well MI6 would do. The community can still debate if a full roster Queens would be able to 3-0 MI6, but I think people need to look at MI6 and wonder if they can beat a full roster Exodus and Soar right now. I guess all we can do is really see how they do as it continues in the season. But that's it for today's video. Week 1 for Apprentice was an amazing showcase of the mistakes that can cause a fight, but also the potential all of our teams have. I'd recommend checking out twitch.tv/FluxCup so you can watch the matches that get streamed, but also join the Flux Cup Discord just in case any of the matches get rescheduled or streamed on a different channel. But without anything else, my name is Intel, and I thank you so much for joining me in this week of Flux Cup.